Now that our VMs are protected in virtual protection groups, we can start to test out some of the cool functionality in Zerto Virtual Replication. Here on my status dashboard, you can see I have two protection groups protecting two VMs, 80 gig of data, and a sub 20 second RPO with no snapshots, no performance impact. In the bottom right hand corner, we have the live and test failover button. The only difference between the two is the live failover is going to connect the virtual machines to a production port group that we specified when creating the VPG. Test will attach it to the isolated network to ensure there's no impact to production. If we click on Failover Test, you can see we've got a remote and a local replica. I'm going to start with my remote replica. And if we click on Checkpoint, here you can see the point-in-time recovery capability. So using the journal-based protection, which you could set to store on a different data store, you can see the ability to test and rewind to increments in seconds. So let's go to just a couple of seconds ago, next, and then start Failover Test. And what we'll see is Zerto bringing a Failover Test VM online in the target data center, vCenter, System Center, Azure, AWS, whatever I selected to replicate to. It's going to attach it to that isolated network, but it's going to do this without breaking the replication, so you can use your Zerto trial to prove your recovery capability in working hours, in minutes, with absolutely no impact whatsoever. While we're waiting for that test to complete, I can also do a file level restore. So Zerto is continuously replicating and protecting the data. If somebody deletes a home folder at 5 p.m., rather than having to accept the data loss of going to the last backup or snapshot, you can use the same journal capability in Zerto to pull individual files from seconds before they were deleted. So if we click Restore File, select our file server VM, and we're going to use our local replica, restore it from our second replica in production directly to production. Again, you can see the journal-based point-in-time recovery, so we could go back to just before 2 p.m. if someone deleted it, for example, just a few minutes ago. We click Next, we select which disk we want to mount, and then we start the mount. And all this is going to do is the same process as a failover test, but just attaching the disk to the Zerto Virtual Manager, which is then going to allow us to browse the file system and pull any file or folder or group of files and folders from that Zerto Virtual Manager. We can then download them through the web browser and restore them to any location, the original, the new, attach them to an email. It is completely up to you what you do with this process. So you can now see this process is finished. We click Browse. I can then browse the file system, and I can select file shares, individual documents. I could go into marketing here. You can see I've got the PDFs. I could download all the PDFs, maybe just one. Click Next, start download, and I now have that file. That is so simple. This is definitely going to be one of the top things that you want to test in your trial, as well as the failover test. So we come to this failover test. We can now see I have my file server 1 testing recovery, and at this point this is just a VM in the inventory. You could also restore files from this VM here, application objects. If it's a Linux VM, then you can log in and get the files from the Linux OS and not even use the file level restore process. The options are endless. Think about your Windows updates. If you need to test Windows updates against all of your infrastructure, rather than having to do it in production or restore from backups, you can just use your Windows failover test. The same for application upgrades. You name it, this is a Swiss Army knife in your data center, being able to rewind and recover your VMs from any point in time and recover individual files, recover the data, and this is all with no impact to production and no break in the replication. So this is just a few things that you can do in Zerto. The next thing you can do is stop the test, and you can actually then produce PDF reports that detail the outcome of the testing. So for any compliance, regulatory, auditing purposes, all you need to do is once we stop this test, we're just going to close this box down. We're going to come across to Reports, Recovery Reports, and we will see the recovery report generated here, which we can then select one or multiple, and then we can click to export it as a PDF. And this gives you a detailed overview of exactly who tested it, when they tested it, the outcome, and the detailed recovery steps. And you can sign it at the bottom, and this is allowing you to show that you tested Zerto, you tested the failover, this is how long it took, and this is the outcome of your trial, and this product is ready to implement in production. So there are many other things you can do. Go and check out my Zerto, go to the forums, check out the test plans, the documentation, maybe look at some automation examples from the REST API document. Everything that you want to do, you can do with Zerto Virtual Replication. And hopefully you enjoyed installing this trial. You're going to test out some cool things, and I look forward to seeing you as a Zerto customer.